Yes, sir.
All right, well, what we'll do is, mind standing?
Oh yes, silence is now commenced while the Honorable Commission is present. All those having business before the Commission will be heard in their turn. God save the state and the Honorable Commission.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everyone. How are everybody today?
Peachy.
Great.
Let me take a look at the agenda and we'll see if we can get ourselves straight. We had to call to order. Okay, for first we have items for public. I think everybody here is on the agenda right now, so no one from the public can comment. Next we have a review and approval of the minutes. Hopefully you folks got a chance to really look at it from last meeting, January 15th. Oh, sorry. That's all right, buddy.
I was just talking to you. Fix the order.
Oh, first we need to approve the agenda. I'm sorry. The agenda is pretty short today, but I do have some stuff to discuss.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda. Any questions and comments? All in favor, approve the agenda.
Aye.
All right.
Approval passed. The agenda. Next on our agenda is the review and administrative approval of the minutes from 1/15. I'm sorry. What I'm doing?
Nothing.
Thank
I
you.
just, this isn't our regular meeting, so I didn't know they were on there. So I
They're
didn't look
on
at- I didn't look at them, sir.
That's okay.
So if you looked at them, you give me a thumbs up and I'll make a motion. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of 1/15/25.
Have a motion on the floor to approve the meeting minutes from 1/15/25. Any comments, any changes? All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Minutes. Next, agenda item, and this is, I guess we should say that we are now into a Board of Equalization. Do we need a motion to do that?
Probably.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to enter us into a Board of Equalization and Review for values of properties in Morgan County.
I'll make a motion to enter us into Board of Equalization for 2025.
We have a motion on the floor. Any comments? All in favor?
All right.
All opposed? All right, we're now in a Board of Equalization. First on the list is Robert May. I think I've been talking to him. How you been?
Good. How are you all?
I'll tell you that you are on a camera system and out on the web, so make sure you're welcome to come up to the table if you like, and we'll take a look at what you're would like to tell us. I saw that you said to get a petition for review. We have it here before us. And we'll let you start by this.
Okay. The only reason I'm here today is because of the rate increase in the property value of my home. The rates have been going up steadily for my wife and I now for the last 4 years, and the proposed number that we just got in the mail was the one that got my attention. And I don't know if I can do this or not, but I prepared
You do whatever you'd like.
I prepared a graph for you folks to take a look at, and it's the trajectory of the rates of the appraised value of the house that have me concerned. We'll make a note as you can see the shape of that line since we built our house in 2014-15, and then the taxes with the house started in 16. Things were going along actually surprisingly steady, didn't increase, and then the rates started to go up in 21, and we were seeing anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000 a year increase. Then all of a sudden for 2025, that number jumps to almost 20,000 year over year. And to put that number in perspective for me, fixed income, retired, living on Social Security, my Social Security increase for this year is $60 a month. And when you shake out what I'm going to be paying extra in taxes, if this will go through, it takes up a third of my annual increase in Social Security just to pay these taxes for the house. And not to mention all the other inflated expenses that are going on. You know, Social Security increase is 2.5%. And, you know, year after year, we keep getting these 10% letters on the value of the house. And, you know, these are the kind of things that you can kind of plan for. And we were in that mode of it's going to go up 4,000 to 8,000 or whatever so a year. And if our house is undervalued, then, you know, I agree, it needs to be brought up to where it needs to be, but, you know, not that quickly. You know, that's, you know, we're looking at about $250 of new taxes that we weren't planning on. And so that, you know, take a trip to Food Line and see how far get you nowadays. So that's basically all I really was, you know, just if these numbers could be more consistent rather than just all of a sudden just taking off, looks like almost exponentially here.
Well, unfortunately, they have been consistent in the last recent years.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, they have been.
Yeah.
But, I think that is, I think your perspective is understood in terms of the amounts yearly, and especially living on fixed income. I deal with that myself and my family,
Mm-hmm.
so I know about that. And at any rate, I'll let.
Hey, I appreciate this graph
Actually-
and the data, because it does help us. Usually, you know, we may have 2 or 3 years worth, and but it's not. I mean, it helps you at least see what's happening.
It's very adamant.
Before we let Bob tell us about some of the comps and things of how they derived at the number that you got, I will say that I think over the past, I've been here now 10 years, and over the past few, ours has been going up pretty slow, and I know you don't feel that way because yours isn't. I get that. But as a county, I don't want to get into the weeds because it's not worth it, and it's too hard for me to even understand, let alone explain. But collectively as a county, you can't go over 2% of an increase across the whole county in any given year, or the state makes you roll back your levy rate. And it happens in neighboring counties. It happens in Berkeley County every year because collectively, as the whole county, they'll go up 3%. And the state says, nope. You can only go up 2%, state, to dial back their levy rate. We've never, now the 10 years I've been here, I've never seen it happen. So I know it's hard for you to believe because you're seeing yours go way up, but collectively as a county, we haven't went up 2%. And I've said this, I've told Debbie, which is our assessor, and he's heard me say it, but I've said, you know, one of these days, it's going to catch up with us, meaning people are going to, there's not going to be any choice, because once houses start selling around you and anywhere that look like just like yours, which he has comps to show, you start seeing what they're selling for all of a sudden. So, you know, if it's selling for 200, well, we got to assess it at 60% of that. Or if it's selling for 300, we have to assess it at 60% of that. And they can't even help it. Like, they have to, the state makes them follow those market values. So yours, I feel like the graph should look, instead of like that, it should look more like this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like probably at some point they were a little lower than they maybe should have been, and that's nobody's fault. And I guess if anything, maybe you got to break those years. But, and we'll see what he says, but I just have a feeling that a lot of people are going to have graphs like this, unfortunately, if they graph it out, because I think these guys have got, they don't even hardly have any choice. Like, the sales are so high that you can't keep them down, or I don't want to say artificially, but Debbie has, I would tell anybody that has anything bad to say about how she's doing assessments and making the values go up, that she, more than anyone you can imagine, has fought to keep them down.
Mm-hmm.
And she would tell me that, she would tell you that, and I would tell anybody that, because she has. They are down like sometimes I wish they weren't down so much. Now yours I can see has really went up, and I'm gonna let Bob speak to that, but I have a feeling that folks that are coming in this year, if we have folks coming in, that's the same type of thing is gonna probably happen.
Yeah,
It's just sales. So I'll let Bob talk a minute and just see
I
what.
don't know if you were finished though. I didn't know if you, I jumped in there. I'm gonna make sure you're finished with your thought.
Well, I did want to go over one little other thing, and I didn't talk to your Bob.
Yes.
Okay, I talked to someone else, and in had a discussion with you guys over this very thing, and you know, I was pretty well told, you know, our hands are tied, we can't do a thing about it. But I don't have the right way to say this, and I want to be very diplomatic, but the tone of that conversation was kind of like, you're just in the wrong neighborhood. You live in a subdivision. There are a lot of people that live in that subdivision from another state, namely mostly Maryland. These are second homes for these people. They don't live in Morgan County. They don't do much business in Morgan County. They're well-to-do normally. I mean, if you can have a second home, you're probably a little higher than the average Morgan County individual. And I just wanted to emphasize the fact that I have lived in Morgan County for over 30 years. I'm not a transplant from DC or Baltimore. And I bought that place, and you know, the lot was $14,000 when my parents helped me out back then. You know, and then we built the house and everything, and as values always were high out there, the property values. I mean, not long after I bought the lot for $15,000, a few years later they were going for $60,000 way back then.
Sure.
You know, and but I feel like I'm kind of being included in more of an elite group that I'm not part of. You know, and just because I happen to be in that subdivision, and having owned a lot in there for almost 20 years, I'm kind of being taken to financial, right, there's a good way of saying it.
I'll tell you how it happens, just so you can understand it, because it does happen. And it's not, obviously not your fault. You did the right thing, got the place at a good price back in the day and have lived there. So what's happening is people, when they go to sell their houses, are putting prices on there that we all think are holy cow, that's pretty high for that place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the folks from the city come into play. They might have sold a house down there or a second home somewhere else. They don't really care what the price is. If they want it, they'll just come in and pay for it.
Yep.
And they're not even taking out mortgages on it.
Right.
So, but what ends up happening is that does raise all those comps in your area.
Mm-hmm.
And then these guys, they know how many square foot you have. They know what your house looks like. Obviously, they have mapped out the footprint of it, but they do what they call mass appraisal. So they do neighborhood appraisals. That is true. That's how, that's how they do it. So like your individual house does, unfortunately, get pegged in with all your neighbors and things. And these guys, I'll bet you, I'd be willing to bet that they've paid more for it. Like you would have never bought the houses they're buying right now. Because for one, you wouldn't have been able to afford it.
Right.
And for two, you said, there's no way I'm paying that much for those places.
Right.
And you become the casualty. Honestly, that's what I guarantee you, that's what Bob's getting ready to tell you. He'll show you some comps and things, and I want to see them too. I have some pictures from you. I'm not sure which ones are which. I'm not sure if one of these is yours or not. I don't even know. But he's going to let me know. And I bet everything I'm saying, only because he's done this a while, I bet it all is going to be exactly what he says. Now, that's not to mean that, we can't look at yours and maybe do something, but if you're done, I'll let him.
Well, the one last little thing I wanted to mention was, since we built the house, my wife and I were talking, she said, well, you had that tree that came down across the lane there, and I was like, that's not improvements. I have a little blacksmith shop that I built in 2014. That's been there that whole time, through that whole graph. And that's it. It's the house and that. We haven't improved anything on the house. We haven't added anything. There's no other outbuildings. There's nothing.
Okay.
So this place has stayed as is since the beginning of that graph. And so it's, I know that's always a concern, if you're going to add a garage or,
finish your basement, do anything
right,
like that.
but not even inside the house. Nothing has been done.
Okay.
And so, you know, the value is strictly going to be, you know, what Bob's going to say is, well, it's comps in your area. Well, I just want to make sure you guys know that it's not because I made improvements or put money in the place or anything like that. It's not anything like that. So
Okay.
I'll sit down with that.
I appreciate it.
That's pretty.
Now, you have a good handle on it, better than most of the folks that come in here, I can guarantee you. All right, Bob, what do you know?
Yep, and I do feel for you because this is kind of happening all over the county, just about every subdivision. And it's just, we have to be at market value, whatever he could sell his house for. So we start off with our cost of construction and then land tables. And then we get even more specific with the property by looking at what they're selling for on that road, that subdivision. This one the land did take a larger jump than some of the other areas because I did include some sales in here on similar lots. They're anywhere from 60 to 85,000. We included a sale that we'll be looking at for next year, which is 58,000, about the same. And these are just unimproved lots, so these don't even have.
In his subdivision or in that
Yes,
area?
yep, just in his subdivision.
So that's the red one, guys. He's just,
Yeah.
because there's two components, there's your house and there's the land, and they
He
do
admitted
kind of do this separate.
$60,000 land cost.
And then that's
Hard to
just
believe, but-
vacant lots. You're looking at, on average, another 30,000, well septic, landscaping, driveway that's not even in these lots that have sold, so
Probably
that's
worse
why the land
lots.
took a jump.
They usually take the good lots first, so.
Yeah, and then
Right.
just like all subdivisions, you might have been able to buy them before COVID for 15,000, 10,000. Now they're selling for 50 to 80, depending what neighborhood you're in, Cape and South, Cape and East. And then we threw in some comps for houses, which are just sales over the last year. We got one for next year, similar square footage and everything. And like you said, you didn't do anything with your homes, and these are all, some of these homes are 40 years old, not in the best condition, and they're selling for 307 to almost 400,000. And that's kind of what we have to look at. Is I understand what you got yours for, but it's because of what the homes are selling for around you, what could you sell yours for? And then I try to let everybody know, like especially when I'm looking at yours and when I see what the sales are, I'd say we're still significantly undervalued on your home and probably most of the homes in there. Just from looking at your house and these comparables that we have, like I would say if a realtor came in to list your home, you'd probably be at 400,000 or more. Just by looking at these
Let me ask a
comps.
question for you, Bob. Something that's standing out to me, and I need to know if I'm even right. Is this one yours?
Yes.
It looks like it, yeah.
Okay, so the only thing that I want to ask you, Bob, just so you can comment on it, because this is something I don't know that I remember seeing before, but I'd like to know how you guys weigh this in, is that the other three pictures you have with the comparable, that look very similar, maybe in the same area, they all have 3 bedrooms, and this one says 1 bedroom. So how do you guys weigh that at all? Or
We do cost of construction and square footage.
square footage, so it
So
doesn't
if-
necessarily make any difference to the bathrooms per se.
Yeah, and I mean, if we do see
I mean,
that
it's
there's
not
a
bad.
huge change in value because maybe a 3-bedroom home is selling for 20% more than the 1-bedroom, we'll have to go in and make adjustments for that. But for the most part, it's square footage is what they're selling for in here. If it's 1 bedroom or 3, they're all selling similar prices. And then our system does depreciate, but of course the sales kind of offset that every year. It might cost you $200,000 to build your home, but as cost of construction materials go up, it might have cost you $200,000 5 years ago, but you would think it would be worth less, but with home values, it's actually worth more. And then we still don't even have what it costs to build this house when he built it. Permit was for $300,000, but they turned everything into us so we could do our studies. And it looks like the cost of construction in 2015 was $276,723 for this home. And we're currently sitting at $227,700 on it. So that's why when I look at the sales, I look at the cost of construction, I look at this home, I'd say this is, I understand it's going up, it's been going up every year because ever since COVID started, that's just what's happening in this area. We don't have enough homes for the demand, so the values are shooting up.
I'm glad we're lower on a lot of them, because I think what goes up sometimes does come down. And
Eventually,
we wouldn't be
that'll
in that
happen.
position. And as a community, when, like we were in '07 or whatever that was.
Let me ask another question. If I'm trying to give myself a multiplier, so if I take your assessed value, looks like I gotta multiply by 1.66 to get to 100%. So if you're supposed to be at 60% and it's a $200,000 house, so if I say 120, that's 60 and 60 is 120, I have to multiply by 1.66 to get to 200. So I assume that's my multiplier for whatever it is. When I multiply 172,800 times 1.66, I'm getting 286,847. Is that what we have him at?
He is at 200, I highlighted it on the printout.
Oh, that's at 288?
288.
So that's about the right math. 1.6, probably 1.666 or something, 667. So basically what that's saying is, right now, where they have it assessed, your house is worth 288. So I guess, and I don't want to be like this, but my question is going to be to anybody that comes in here, would you sell your house to me today for 288? If I said I got 288, or I know somebody that does, will you sell your house for 288?
I have no idea what the house is worth. I'm not in the market to sell it.
I understand,
So
but that's the position we have to unfortunately put ourselves in. If you say I will, then I'll go find someone to get you the money, and we'll buy it. But if you say, well, no, I'm not doing that, then I'm gonna say, well, I don't know why you're in here then. Because if you won't sell for 288, you obviously know it's worth more than 288, and we have it assessed low, not high. And that's not fair, but that's the way I want to ask this year, because I told someone online the same thing. I said, well, come on in here. I said, well, I'll find someone to buy your house for whatever we have it assessed at if you think it's too high.
Okay,
If you think you're getting messed, you know. And that's just a way for you all to look at it, because unfortunately, you can have these pictures, you can have mine, I already wrote on some of them, but it just gives you an idea of the ones that he's looking at, and you might even recognize them. But that's where they were actually sold recently. So he has that data, and that's unfortunately what.
And in Berkeley County, they actually will buy the property sometimes.
Okay.
We just don't have, we don't have money to do
I'm not kidding, I'll find some.
Well, like you, not everybody buys a house as an investment, we buy it to live in it.
And that's my point. My wife and I built this place as our forever house retirement, and we didn't think we'd get taxed out of it, basically. And as I stated in my very first comment, it's not the value, it's the rate of increase.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so if we need to get this thing valued up, okay, I'm willing to pay my fair share like any other citizen in this county, without a doubt. But do we have to do it all in 1 year? Kind of thing. And that's where I'm at. It's like the $8,000 a year increase, we were able to absorb that in our lifestyle, if you will. And then all of a sudden it jumps up almost 20, coming up here, and it's like, can't you just do that and spread it out? That's what I'm looking at. It's trying to get all the way to the proper assessed value from whatever we were 10 years ago, which was evidently way undervalued, because honestly, the places out there, from what I've heard and seen, haven't just taken off like a spaceship. They've always been expensive. The lots have been higher than Morgan County, $10,000 an acre. That's not unheard of anywhere in this county, and that's what these lots are going for. So there just happen to be 6-acre lots, because that's what the subdivision required when they divided it up back then with their original charter. So, you compare that to somebody that may have a house like I have on an acre or two somewhere else. Now you're talking 10,000 for the lot, or 20 instead of the 60. So, the size of the lots out there are going to dictate a higher property value just because of the acreage each lot is. But again, I'm not getting into the weeds here with exactly levy rates and this and that and, you know, all these factors. It's, just give me something I can swallow every year and we'll get there. But, you know, don't just hammer me.
Well, I can guarantee you that our county will still be barely making basically the grade from the state when even when all this is said and done, because of the increases that we've seen in the last, you're saying 4, I said in the last couple of years, it's even been crazy.
The last 2 years have been worse.
I'll take your graph one step further, and this is your increases since 2021, percent-wise. That big one that went from 120 to 133, that was 9.4%. But then it was 3.1, 5.66, 5.0, and then 11.3. So 11.3 is why you're in here, because the 9 was high, but 3, 6, 5, 11.
Well, when you start
It's
looking
pretty
at
hard. It does hit
percent,
pretty hard.
when you start doing the percent thing, that's deceiving too, because the bigger the number, you know, 8, 7, 5% becomes a bigger number.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so I mean, to get 10%, and as that value goes up, 10% becomes a bigger increase monetarily.
Yeah,
So,
and you talking to me, you want to use the number because the number's bigger. Me talking to you, I want to use the percent because to me, that's the fairest way to put everybody in the same pot, say, what's your percent up? And it's a pretty good one. I mean, it is.
And that is kind of why everyone's getting an increased letter, it seems like every
How
year.
many letters
because
go out this year?
Almost 3,000,
How many properties we have?
a little bit over 15.
I've got one every year.
Yeah, and I mean, that is because our assessor does keep in mind, we're all taxpayers, everyone's fixed income or so forth. That's why you get a letter so many years in a row, is because we're just slowly rising it, like you said, and not all at once. This neighborhood, from just with the sales, lots of the homes in this neighborhood could have increased 20, 30, 40% and took the jump all at once, but we're doing the 8, the 9, the 10%.
I think what he's saying is, to you, the 11% is too high. You don't like that. You'd rather it be 5, 6% every year. You could swallow that a little easier. I think what he's saying is, man, we're in a position where to us, 11 and 12% is
On the low end.
pretty low because we really need to make it 15 or 20 to make the values right. That's what he's saying, and I know that doesn't make you feel any better, but
well, it's the whack divided by time, okay? And again, I'll take the whack one way or the other, but I would much appreciate it being spread out
And that's
over a little more
what we're
time.
doing right now.
Because Social Security I can't write them a letter and say, hey, my taxes just went up 11.3% on $288,000, and they're gonna say, sorry about your luck, you know? And, you know, I mean, we all know, I mean, that money comes right out of anything else I was gonna do, you know, and
Your presentation and your description says a lot. I appreciate the effort you put in it. I think that the assessor's office does everything they can to do what you're asking, exactly what you're asking, but it's not, you know, it's still 3%, 4% higher than what you'd like it to see. And I was surprised, to be honest, when I saw the graph that you did do it every year.
Ever since COVID, we're mass appraisal, you're always
Because
behind
I
the
know you
market.
do
So when the market's high, we have to increase every year till we get there.
Yeah. Well, it's the only way.
Unfortunately, I hate to say this, but just looking at these numbers, I wouldn't be shocked if we're anywhere somewhere near that 10% line next year. I know you don't want to hear that, but these ones that are literally the same square, and it is, I understand what you're saying, it has to go by square footage because you don't necessarily care what they do inside per se.
And our system depreciates per how old the home is, if it needs a new roof, needs all that stuff.
But this one isn't very old, but to see the one, to see one that's 1,123 square feet that sold for $390, that does not help your case any, when yours is at $290 basically.
yeah, and if I was gonna move out to Randolph County, then I would realize all the things that has just been said for the last 20 minutes.
Sure.
but I don't want to move to Randolph County. I want to stay in Morgan County, and I want to live here at a reasonable taxation rate. And that's all I'm here today to say is it's like, if we're going to get there, can you spread it out a little bit instead of hitting me all at once? And like Sean said, we're going to come out next year and hammer you again.
No, we're gonna.
And
come out
that's, he didn't use those, I'm sorry, he didn't use those words,
I
but
say if he did, we're gonna have to talk, Sean.
but that's what it meant, you know, it's
He tried to
like,
explain his way out of that, and it wasn't a very good explanation.
well,
Well, he needs to understand that that there's a lot of people in your shoes. The guys over here that are getting these other ones, they're probably way undervalued because they sold for $390. I can guarantee you they're not, they're probably assessed in the range that yours is, maybe a little higher. So they're really getting a deal right this second. So yeah, they're gonna get hammered next year, the year after that, and the year after that, because they don't have any choice but to try to catch up. But I wouldn't tell a taxpayer that way. I would try to explain it. But unfortunately, Randolph County,
I was using that.
I know, but all of them, it's the unfortunate part of, really, it's the fact that property taxes, as some people have said, is basically theft. Like, you don't even own your own place because you gotta pay property taxes, and it's crazy. Because if you don't, guess what eventually happens? Your place will get sold on the courthouse steps if you don't pay taxes enough years in a row. And that's just crazy to me that you build it, you bought it, it's your place, but you don't own it. Because if you don't pay them taxes, someone else is gonna come get it. And that's just the system we live in, and I don't like it either, but unfortunately, I gotta keep police on the streets, and it's, the more I sit here, the more I don't like the way our system is, but I don't know that it's like we're so far down the rabbit hole, I don't know what you could ever do to change it all.
Gentlemen, anybody have any closing remarks?
I would just say this, you know, for folks that are especially if you've signed up for the Homestead Act, they should never see a 10% ladder. Never. There's gotta be some kind of consideration in there for that. And we're there, you know, we're 65. And, you know, you just can't absorb it like you could when you were working. You know, when I was working, I could go, hey, boss, I need 20 hours overtime, you know, or something like that. And you say, all right, we'll work it in, you know, and you can make adjustments. Now, my hands are tied, you know, I can take some money out of savings to pay for this, but it wasn't in our budget.
I know.
So-
And I'm telling you, Debbie, to a person, Debbie is trying her dangest. I guarantee you she's giving Bob specific instructions to try to keep these things as reasonable as possible. And I know you don't want to hear it, but I'm telling you, this 11.3% is probably literally as reasonable as they could do it. Because they probably need to do it 15 or 20. And I know to you it's too much, too soon, too quick, but to them it's still not enough, and they're trying their best to not hammer you. It feels like a hammer, but I swear I would put Debbie up against anybody in the state that is trying her best to keep them low. And she's told me straight to my face that it's for the people that are from here and have lived here all these years. She literally uses the word, it's just not fair that their taxes keep going up.
And to the state.
And I say, Debbie, the problem is, your job is to keep the values fair. People might not like it, but I mean, if you guys pass on in 2 years, someone's gonna sell your house, and if you have heirs, it's gonna go to them, and then it's not gonna get sold for $290. It's gonna get sold for $350 or $400. And so her job, I tell her, she tells me no, her job is to keep your taxes down. I tell her job is to keep the assessments where they should be. Not taking into consideration people's budgets and and I know you don't want to hear that. Nobody wants to hear it. It's a terrible argument to make in the county but everyone's houses are going up.
I like it, Dave. It's a great pick.
Hey, you like my assessment of that, Tom?
He's on mute. So
Oh, he doesn't know.
we're gonna have we're gonna actually I'm gonna put homestead exemption.
We need to put him on
I'm
YouTube.
gonna put increase on that, on my list.
Probably, okay.
Because that's one of the
Well, we
things-
need to make a ruling here on this. I'll make a motion to leave the tax assessment at $72,800.
A motion on the floor to leave the tax assessment at $72,800. Any more discussion?
No.
All in favor?
All right. I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but I feel like these guys have done as fair as they could do. Brought in the comps to back up their claim, so to speak. And I just can't, knowing what I know about how they've been doing it for the last 5 years, I think they're doing it as slow as they can possibly do it. I really do. And I wouldn't sit here and tell you that if I didn't believe it, but I do believe it. And I see your percentage, and I see it's high, and I know it ain't gonna be great for you, but I do still believe it's undervalued, honestly. And it's not a great place to be in. I understand, but I can't undercut the work that they're doing because they put a lot of time and effort into it. I just think they're doing it as fair and as accurately as they can, and honestly, and it's still low. I really believe that, but
I think you
it doesn't make me feel any better.
represented a big part of our community though, and what you brought us, and I know that doesn't help you, the solution that we came up with, but I do think you did a great job explaining where a lot of people are.
Well, I guess the only question left in my mind is, if the rate for the whole county is limited to 2%, it seems like a whole lot of that rate increase is coming from certain places and not overall.
Well, here's how that'll
And,
work.
well, let me just say this.
Okay.
You just went over the increases year over year for my house,
Sure.
and there wasn't a one of them that was anywhere near 2%. But that's supposed to be the average for Morgan County. I'm probably 10 times that, 5 times that, whatever. That's all I'm saying is it's like it seems to be all being made up in certain areas. And, you know, I mean, River Ridge was just a place I found that had a lot that was very affordable 20 years ago, and that's where I decided to build. There was nothing special about it. I could have bought a piece of property anywhere. And now it seems like it was a pretty poor choice.
I'm on Laurel Avenue, they have houses for sale.
So here's what I envision could happen. It could be that we have enough people that went up well above and beyond 2% this year. I mean, it's possible. I haven't seen the number yet. I'm not sure she hasn't done yet. It's possible that we get above that thing for the first time since I've been here in 10 years. If that's the case, we will have to roll back the levy rate, which then your assessed value stays the same, 172.8. But then if the levy rate has to get rolled back, that will roll back your actual tax bill because it's assessed value times the levy rate. So your value's here, but if that rate has to dial back a little bit, multiplied by your value, it will reduce yours. It's never happened since I've been here, which is why I brought it all up, because 2% is that limit. I mean, at some point, I feel like the county has to get, I just can't imagine, because of these numbers you're showing me, and it's happening everywhere, I just can't imagine, because you only get a letter if you're 10%. But I gotta believe people were 4 to 10%. They might not have got a letter, but their assessments had to went up. I just can't believe I can't believe we're gonna hit that rollback. If we do, you'll benefit, because you will get the levy rate rolled back, and it'll then be multiplied by your value. It will give you a lower bill.
Yeah, I
Our
understand.
neighbors to the east have to do that every single year, Berkeley County, Jefferson County, every year they gotta do it. We haven't. I mean, I think.
But you're right, I understand what you're saying. Neighborhoods, yes, neighborhoods get hit. Cape South, Cape East, all these kind of nicer neighborhoods, they get hit every freaking time.
And there's a lot of sales activity in those areas there too.
Oh, I know, and the sales activity also drives that increase, meaning they now have the comps, whereas in town, where you don't maybe get a lot of flip turnover, you don't have the comps to support it. And so Debbie will keep those down as much as she can, because she's not being forced to raise them, because she's not seeing those comps. But here, she doesn't really have a lot of choice,
The
unfortunately.
state says we should have at least minimum of 3 sales in a neighborhood or an area before we move it. So that's.
Well, I know
That's
that
the area.
there was one lot just down the hill from us that sold for 20,000.
And we look at all those too, because that's
Is
why
that
we
in
come
your-
out and we look at them to see.
Is that
what-
in your list that you use for averages?
If it just happened, it's a next year.
No, it was a couple years ago.
Then, yeah, we probably would have looked at that, like I said, because there's your neighborhood, Cape and East, Cape and South, like 4 years ago.
'Cause I almost bought
You would have
that
got a
lot.
lot for 10,
I
20.
mean, I looked real hard at buying it just to sell it.
Yeah.
Because during COVID, it sold for 20,000. And it's a nicer lot than what I have. I've got 1 acre out of 6 that's buildable. You've seen it if you've been there. Our cabin sits on the only acreage you can build on. The other 5 acres are just,
Yes,
so.
there's gentlemen outside.
Well, thank you all
Thank you.
for hearing
Sorry
us.
we didn't have a different turnout for you.
It's good to meet you.
See you guys.
One,
It is about that trajectory.
it's gonna hit everybody.
Oh, no,
These 3s and 5s should have been 5, I think, 5s and 8s. 9s. I think. And then it wouldn't be like that.
Hey Tom, you're off mute now, hope you're feeling a little better.
Yes, we're great. Look at all the ties on it. He does. He's sharp looking, aren't they? He's here.
Hey, guys, how are you?
Is that the president?
Yeah.
Locally, he goes by the shape.
Is that what he does?
Unfortunate, but.
How'd that happen? How'd this happen? It did. And then I saw that. Well, we didn't ask, that's a question for Bob. Was he here then? Problem.
Can we have 2 people call that line?
Yes,
Yes.
it's easier
She calls it
if
out.
I call out.
Okay.
How's everybody doing?
Hey,
Mr. Cannon's.
how's everybody doing? Thanks for coming, appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Carol. We're gonna, is there someone else got anyone?
Yes. All right. David Cannon. It's, I can, hold on.
Okay, we're gonna add a person, Mr. Willis.
Somebody let him know.
What's that number, Tom?
It is 304 376.
The number you have dialed is not in service.
You weren't
Please check
fast
the
enough.
number and try your call again. Thank you.
304.
376 8071.
The number you have dialed is not in service. Please check the number and try your call again. Thank you.
Yeah, but then, so did that with 304 too.
Maybe dial 1304.
Yeah.
304.
376.
Darren, how you,
It's gonna go.
8071.
how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You liking coming over here?
You're on-
As often as we've been bringing you over?
Yeah, sure. It's good. I'd rather
It
come
says
to here
metal.
than over
Hello?
Yeah, here.
It's a lot closer.
Welcome. Do you hear us up here? Why don't we go down there?
Oh, that's fine.
Why don't we go?
Yeah, they ain't like we're.
I like these
bunch of
guys
dictators up
looking
there.
up to me, you know?
Yeah, that's not
For
gonna
once,
happen.
somebody looks up to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
You threw it on the ground, Bill, out of frustration.
I don't know.
I saw that happen. How are you all?
Can we make sure whoever you call is over here?
Thanks for the invite.
Darren, Mr. Cannon, sorry, Tom and David, are you guys on there?
Yes, sir. Tom is on.
All right. Hopefully you're feeling a little better, Tom.
Yeah, I feel a lot better than yesterday, but I know I'm highly contagious just because it went through my whole family. So appreciate you guys letting me call in today. Sorry I can't be there in person.
That's all right. Yeah, you keep that sicky icky away. It's we've had it twice at my house already. I don't want it again.
I figured you'd appreciate it. Yeah.
I know
It's all
you-
good.
I appreciate everybody joining us. I know you've been everywhere, Darren, so thanks for putting another stop on your list. George, thank you. We're gonna just talk about a few things that we have collected over the past couple of years. I guess some of the stuff, I went back and looked at an old list, and there was some of the things we actually got done over the years, and it looked good. It feels good to look back on those lists. The legislature's helped us out in the past. One thing I want to get off my chest about this whole legislative thing that we talk about is that Morgan County is not a taking county. I mean, we've never been one. And one thing I hate about legislative stuff, it always sounds like we're begging or asking. And we've never begged or asked. We've asked, we've never begged, and we usually stand on our own. And we do go after things when we see problems, but we talk about it. It usually takes a couple years to get any response, but I don't want us to sound like like we're, you know, that kind of an organization, because we're not. But we do need a hand up every now and then. And that's what we are probably, if you see us, you're probably, you know, there's probably something on our list that we could use a hand. We're not going to be regulars. I mean, I go every year because I enjoy the relationship building, and I've learned those relationships are what keeps us, you know, when we do have those needs, you know, keeps us in it. One thing I think I'll have to let Joel talk about. One of the things I have on my list here is jail costs. He's our numbers guy, and always keeps a good handle on our budget. And jail costs has got this very complex equation of how it costs us. And obviously we've put some, you know, we've been trying to be tougher on the drug issue and those kind of things, and it's showing up, I mean, in our community. And I don't know if Joel, if you wanted to expand on what's happening with jail costs.
I mean, I think George and Daryl, you probably know too, were you down there when they switched it to what they used to be? Just used to be one flat rate. And Tom, you probably heard about it, even though you obviously weren't in there at the time. But so it used to just be a flat rate. I think it was either $48.50 or $45.80. I'm dyslexic, so it was one of those two. But anyway, that's what it was per day. And of course, every year the big thing was, hey, we're gonna have to raise the jail bill. We're gonna have to raise that jail bill because they can't operate the thing. Well, I mean, we've always paid our jail bill, but there's been plenty of counties who've struggled. I don't know, anybody cover any of Mineral anymore? I don't think any of us do, but like I know Mineral struggled there for a while, and some other ones have. So the fight used to be, hey, you guys can't raise this jail bill. It's bad enough as it is. We had one some years back before we really started. Well, before we had a day report center, it was $599. Never got to $600, but it was $599,000, which was a bunch, and that's pretty bad. So then we actually got some help from Tim Sy. We started a day report center. I'd encourage you all to continue to fund those. Those things they do more than keep people out of jail. They help people recover, but that's helped us a lot. We actually had ours down for numbers of years in the 300s, which super, because other people were still having theirs that were up. Don't know if they had day report centers or not. Don't know if they had home confinement and those types of programs or not. But anyway, still problems. They still needed to raise it. I think they decided to say, okay, here's what we're going to do now. And this is what they did 2 years ago. They made it tiered. So they didn't really lower the first tier. It's just, it didn't go up. It might have went down like $1, but the first tier, which is a certain amount of hours, so it's per capita, but it's a certain amount of hours, is like $45. The next tier is like $54, $55, and I could be wrong about these. The third tier is like $65. So we got into the second tier last year, but not till May. So we only had about a month and a half of that second tier. Now, I don't know what the reason is, but ours has been higher this year, and we're already in the second tier. We're going to hit that third tier, which really is what my prosecuting attorney calls the punitive tier. Once you get to the third tier, you're getting billed, $20 more per day than the guys in the first tier. Now, I don't know if anybody stays in the first tier. They probably all get to the second one, but it's going to hurt us. Our jail bill will be about $100,000 over this year than what we budgeted, which is consistent with the last couple years. So, and this is just the things we're going to get to on the list, but with PEIA being however many percent, which will cost us $30,000 or $40,000, and in the jail, I mean, just those two things, we only get about $200,000 extra a year. So those two things alone, and then it costs 35 to 40 every percent raise we give to anybody. So we don't even have the money. Like, people always want raises, and I get that, but there's not any money once you get to all these things. So now I'm rambling, but the jail bill, I don't know how they fix it, Bill, because they have to keep the tiers like they are. I'd certainly encourage you not to raise it anymore, because there's got to be other counties that are just getting hammered. Even Berkeley County, they get into the third tier every year, and they have a real nice day report center. Keep adding and adding to that. If they didn't have that day report center, their jail bill would be double. I mean, it'd be millions of dollars a year. And anyway,
Needs to say,
What is your PEIA bill?
the whole bill, give me a second.
Well, what did it go up in the past 2 years?
Last year it went up was it 13 or 14%, which I think was $46,000 for our county.
Wow.
And then this year, they're saying it's gonna go up another 13 or 14%.
I think it's
And how much? do you-
16%, so it's gonna cost us minimum 50,000 just for PEIA.
Yeah.
That's,
What does that mean per person?
Oh,
Or you don't have that figured
well,
out?
no, we have, because we pay 25%.
I think an
we pay-
individual's
they pay
probably in the range of
we pay.
600 total for the bill, and then the family plan's probably in the range of 1,200, somewhere in that range. And so, you know, another 15, 16% will be another $150 for a family plan. I mean,
Are you having any problems going through any process with that?
meaning what now?
You mean using it?
Payments, coverage?
I haven't-
Or-
I mean,
are
everybody
they
always-
giving you a runaround on anything?
No.
I haven't personally experienced it. I think people, you'll hear people complain about PEA a lot,
Sure.
PEIA a lot, but like Sean
But they're
said,
also
he
gonna
said other
complain,
things.
they're also gonna complain about Blue Cross Blue Shield if they had them too. I mean,
Right.
it's the nature of the beast.
Right.
Thing I want the legislature to understand is that, you know, there's two sections of PEIA, and
Mhm.
non-state and state. And-
Right.
And I don't know where the teachers fall into that one, but the non-state has
state.
always paid a more healthier premium. I mean, and plus their organizations have always budgeted and paid into their share of it. They run them differently for some reason, and one of the, and this is down in the weeds a little bit, but one of the issues with, and I don't know where they make those rules at, but in for instance, in the others, you can do, and ours is certainly isn't based on how much you make, it's just a premium and we pay it. But, you know, if you're in another organization, you get a spouse and employee rate. Here, we get automatically family rate.
Right.
And that's a dirt and a detail kind of thing, but.
Well, non-state agencies have 3 tiers, 3 possibilities,
Yeah.
3 choices. State agencies have 5.
Right,
So, and I don't mean the plans, I mean your family makeup.
right.
So we have single, family, and I think parent and child.
Yeah, parent-child, you have that. But that's.
But there is no parent and spouse, there is no employee and spouse. The state agencies have employee and spouse. So me and my wife, for instance, now my kids are still on, but they're about to go off. I'm still gonna have to carry the entire family plan. Same as if I had 5 kids. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, obviously I'm not gonna spend as much with me and my wife as I would with me and my wife and 5 kids, but that's where we will be. We'll still have to be in the family plan.
Yeah, you'll be
Because we don't have the choice
So
of.
just another way for them to get more out of non-state as they do every time. I mean, I'm not saying
Our
it's
rates
their
are higher,
plan,
too.
I get it, but that's just.
Well, I don't understand who pays. Is it, does the county as the employer pay 80%?
75, 75%.
That's dic-
Yeah, but
Plan B.
Regardless of whether it's an individual,
Unfortunately, yes,
member, or family,
As of right now, yes.
you pay the 75%?
but we made that up.
Right,
We
right.
can pay
Yeah,
20% or
that's-
100%. We can do what we want. We pick 75, and we're doing 75 of single and 75 of single
Yeah.
child and 75 of family. We pay 75 of all of them, which is silly, but it's what we're doing.
State does 80%, yeah.
I
So,
think,
I mean, that's how we manage it though. The idea that it's charged to us differently than the other side of the equation, I don't understand that. Why we have 3 and they have 5. I don't, that's my thing.
So where do you fall with the other 54 counties or
well, I mean,
in this?
we're all
All
struggling
the
the same.
counties are treated the same. All county governments have 3
Yeah,
choices.
But you may make a little bit more than Boone County.
As far as a contribution?
Or
Yeah.
are you talking?
Yeah, and I don't know, that might be a good question for us to pose on the listserv is what other counties, we do 75% of Plan B is what we do.
That's Dave. Dave. Mr. Cannon, are you there?
Yes, sir.
What does Hampshire County do? Is that what you're gonna
We
ask?
do 70%.
Of Plan B?
Yeah.
How much?
And family?
70% of Plan B.
For all choices, Dave?
Sorry, I'm breaking up a little bit.
For all choices?
Meaning, if you're single, they pay 70, and if you're family, they pay 70?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and that's not the point. What we pay is our decision what we pay.
Yeah.
The problem is that they treat the non-state and the state differently.
Yeah, and that's, I think
And I don't, that's, what we decide to pay is our business.
You have a
but-
booklet.
but
2025 plan booklet?
That part, is
Somewhere.
what I wonder
Or
why,
old one.
it's another
Anyhow.
way that our side of the system gets to pay more. It's just another
Yeah.
way. And that's all right, we need to pay our share, I get that. But-
So the non-state agencies pay more, and the non-state agencies have less choices. So we have a lot of older employees, meaning that's just them and their spouse, and they're thrown into the highest plan, which is the family plan, because there is no employee spouse option for us. That's a double whammy, is what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's why I wanted to bring it up. And
I think-
I don't even know where that detail is sought out, if that's on the board. I'm sure it's not a legislative issue, but I'm sure it's not there. It's probably within the group that works that system. And a lot of stuff is done that way,
Well, I mean, my comments, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. We're Peter. And I mean, that's just the way to put it. I mean, the state agencies, we're taking the brunt of the increase to subsidize the whole entire PEIA as a whole.
That's my point.
And that's,
To be fair, they're getting hit too. I mean,
well,
they're
they
all-
are, they're not getting hit 16%.
But if ours go up 8%, yours should only go up 8%.
There we go. If we're looking at two items to identify specifically to tackle, it would be maybe the state should take on just as much as an increase as a non-state. I'd have to imagine that the non-state county governments, for the most part, probably are close to the number of employees. I don't know. I'd be curious to know that answer.
Only thing I know is we're at somewhere around 250,000 employees on PEI. That's the only number I can give you.
Total.
I don't know the breakdown, I just know.
So, and then I think it would be beneficial to echo what both of them said. We would like those additional choices too, because I think it could help control the costs.
It would. Common sense.
So, no, I'm not, you're never, knowing the insurance business, you're never gonna hear me complain about how expensive PEIA is or the amount of coverage. I've had to go out of state. Is the appeal process a pain in the butt? Absolutely, but I did the appeal process so I could go to UVA where they had a specialist, they approved it at the highest possible rate. So yes, are there some things that could be done better? Yes, but you can navigate through them as long as you have somebody that's willing to help, or as long as you have the know-withal to be able to do it. I just think if you're going to spread around an increase, you can't stick 16% on non-state and then 8% or 6% on state, because you're essentially telling the non-state employees, hey, sorry about your luck, we haven't been able to figure out how to fund this thing right, so the non-state employees need to take the brunt of it. So they can. They can, and that's probably why I don't like it.
It's their call.
But I also know we can't, I've talked to a broker the past couple of years, I know we can't go out and get it cheaper.
Right. And they know that.
And they know that too. Could we self-insure? Yes, but then we risk never being able to come back into PEIA again. So they kind of have us by the handcuffed. I mean, that's realistically it. I was going to say that.
I think they're using zip ties, they're not using handcuffs.
Yeah, whatever they're using nowadays.
Another issue, is not an issue at all. We currently get a fee assessed for the fire departments. I mean, we want to.
Hey, Bill. Hey,
Yes.
Bill. This is Tom. Hey, I think that's Bill. Hey, before we move on, can I ask a question about PIA, please?
Sure.
Hey, so I know that I think particularly on the House side, there's a big move to privatize PEIA. What's the commission's take on that?
I think the costs are going to go dramatically up. That's my first reaction to that. I know, because we have looked and tried to look at other insurance programs for our county. Even though we threw that on our list as a complaint, it's not a complaint that we're in it. we have a hard time. We're hard pressed to find someone to do it for a better price. I don't know how they manage that, but
The problem is that we're seeing at the state level is it's going to get out of hand on our end.
As far as funding it?
As far as money. We're not going to be able to support this in the next 10 years if we don't get it under control. So we've gotten so far behind over the last 8 years, 12 years, that because we didn't do premium increases, that we were looking at a $500 billion bill at, or not $500 million bill at year 5, right? So that's why we have to do what we've had to do. And we've got a bill coming out of the Senate also that is to privatize PEIA. So that's where we're headed as a legislature. And I'm on PEIA, right? I got a school teacher for a wife, so that's my, you know, every time I make a vote on this, it affects me directly.
Sure.
And, but we've got to, yeah, a lot of us, right? So we've got to try to figure it out, or that's where we're going to head is privatizing. And I feel your pain, and I will make sure, we will have this fight this year about where we go with PEIA. So I'm sure me, George, all 4 of us will make sure that we do our best to try to level that.
I'll add this, if Bill and Daryl, if your first thought is if you privatize it, the costs are gonna go up, then to me, that automatically says our costs are lower than they should be. Because,
right.
I mean, that's probably why we're hitting these daggone increases every year, because they can't run
Well,
it
it's
for the
just like
cost.
what we just talked about in our, in our other meeting.
No matter what we do, teachers will strike.
Yep.
And that's something we have to look at, right? So it's not just as easy as saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. When we're hearing already, because we're having discussions about PEIA, we're already hearing grumblings about striking. Now we've got to think, you know, of me, it's like, okay, strike, what are you going to do? Now you're going to take a $2,000 hit a month, or whatever it is, because you're complaining about a 10% price increase. But we can and have the authority, we'll just shut it all down.
I mean, that's what you look at, and I'm sure folks in the legislature have looked at this, but you need to look at other states that have had the same issue, because just like I always look at the big auto manufacturers of the world. And in 08-09, they had no possible solution to fund their benefits package and their retiree benefits. Their retiree benefits outcosted, I guess is the proper accounting term, their current staffing benefits. You can't sustain that. So the states, all states that have pensions and health insurance programs are like this. Me as a private sector guy, I understand that you can't sustain it. There's no freaking way. You can keep on putting Band-Aids on it and go 16%, but what you probably really need to do is go 40%. And even then, PEIA is still probably going to be cheaper. I mean, there is a problem there. I'm just being a devil's advocate.
When we do that, so we can go back 8 years to that, when we had those 2 strikes, back to back, the governor promised we will not have premium increases. Well, that's where we started, right?
Yeah.
This is not a governor bashing moment here, these are just the facts. That's where it all started. Now we're going to have to drastically jump these up, and it's going to be a problem. At the county level, the teachers, state police, everybody that's on this, it's going to be a political football that none of us really want to touch, but we're going to have to.
And I guess my biggest ask is, while you guys are working on that process, the last thing that we as commissioners like is not knowing about something. As you guys are fighting for this, and you want some feedback from counties, we would be glad to help feedback and provide feedback and say, hey, if this is what's going to happen, this is what it looks like for Morgan County. And I know you guys are going to experience the same thing with the teachers and DOH and all the other people that are on it. So there's no silver bullet for it, that's for sure. It's just been, the can has been kicked, and I use this term a lot in our emergency services boards, but the can's been kicked down the road so much there's nothing left. You can only Band-Aid it for so long.
I'm gonna come over here closer to this thing so I pulled up, this is plan year. This is a current plan year. I have the shopper's guide, it's called. All employees get this, state and of course non-state. So we base what we pay on PEIA, PPB, plan B?
Yeah.
All right. So for us, for employee only, for PPB Plan B, the premium is $664. So I wasn't too far off. It just went up last year, so I was off a little. For a state employee, for the same plan, employee only, the premium is $520. So we're way, percent-wise, quite a bit more. Now, the next tier that's available to us is employee and children. Same with them on the sheet. Employee and children is 1,175. So my 1,200 was real close. 1,175. Employee and children for a state employee, 694. Now, then our last one is family, 1,386. And for them, that's when they have the big jump, is family. Theirs goes to 1,153. Still a good bit lower than ours, but ours was 1,386 for family, and theirs was 1,153. Now, that's it for us. We only have those 3 choices, but then they get 2 more choices. They get family with employee spouse, meaning if 2 people work. Now, me and my wife were in this situation. We both worked for PEIA, but since she was state and I was non-state, we couldn't take the average of our salaries. That's what they're doing. They're taking the average then of the salaries, and they're giving them since only one is into the system, meaning the other one's basically free, not free, you know what I mean? They're giving them a discount. We don't get that. Well, I don't think we do. And then only because we set what we pay, whereas the state sets what the state people pay, and it's based on their pay. But family with, this is actually showing a family with a spousal surcharge, meaning if they don't, that's the one where if they don't take it, and it's available, but they don't take it. If it's available somewhere else and they don't take it. So now, on this particular sheet though, Bill, I'm not seeing they might have changed it last year, because I'm not seeing the person and the spouse only.
They don't have that on there?
Well, the 5 choices are employee only, employee and children, family, family with employee spouse. That's still whole family, but 2 people are working. And then there's the one that's family with the spousal surcharge, meaning you've got your family on it, but you could have been on your spouse's plan, and they work somewhere else. So you're gonna pay extra if you're gonna stay on ours, because.
Well, I'm glad you pulled that out then, if that's different than what we're saying, because I don't wanna go lead them wrong.
Well, this is just something, I know you may not, I mean, you have it, so maybe you looked at this, but it's kind of interesting. Well, just the premiums alone though are vastly different. Now, to be fair, you gotta go back a few pages, because the ones from state are based on your income. So they pulled a number here, but I'm not sure. If you're making, and I don't want to say, but if you're a teacher and you're whatever you're making, you might be a little lower. But if you're an administrator, it might be, well, I know it's higher, because they do pay them tiered. We don't do that. We treat everybody the same.
Well, it's like they, a few years ago, they changed that, added the spousal payments and a few other things that seemed to make sense.
So if I could, I just want to clarify what we're asking here. So it's not PEIA itself, or if we make raises or anything like that's the problem. What you all are saying, you all want to be on a level playing field.
Yeah.
With the state. So we can help work on that. I don't know if we'll get anywhere. but
Right.
we
You sound like you have
try
better
that.
fish to fry than
I just want you to know also that there could be some big changes coming this year.
Yeah, I understand.
If we mess with it.
Well, yeah. It's hard to distinguish from those charts, but, maybe they should be at our rates. I don't know.
So we're paying, what'd you say, 11 or 1,200 for a family plan?
1175.
Yeah, you're about half different.
6 years ago, I was paying $3,800 for my family plan.
You didn't shop around?
Well, PEIA wasn't an option. That's why you haven't heard me
That's why Sean doesn't
complain one
complain.
time. I mean,
Just shop around, dude.
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell the
I'll
teachers
gladly
that are calling
take
me.
PEI.
This could be over triple,
Yeah.
but they,
Well, no,
they don't.
I've always seen like on people's W-2s, where they'll say out front, $25,000 is the value of their health insurance that they've paid on their behalf. Crazy sometimes, but,
Right, I know, that's what I'm saying, so.
Well, and then on the-
I try to explain this to the teacher, and the teachers are and I'm not here to beat up the teachers again.
Sure.
I've got a wife that's a teacher, but they're the ones that complain the most.
look here.
You never hear from DOH, or you never hear from the state police, or nobody like that, it's always teachers.
yeah, so my only concerns about privatizing it, I think you'd run into the same thing, which makes me absolutely infuriated about Encova, Brick Street. I mean, you privatize something, and then you allow this private business to then profit off of taxpayers founding the business. Encova is, well, it's no longer Brick Street. Brick Street turned into Ecova, expanded to like 30 states, and then had a merger, and the people at the top got paid tens of millions of dollars, all off of mine and your dimes. And we had to pay back the state the deficit reduction surcharge for workers' compensation.
Good point.
I mean, so the devil's in the details, of course, but there's cons with every single aspect you look at. If you privatize it, guess who's going to make the money? Not the taxpayers that have had to fund it, not the users of PEIA that had to pay for it, the people at the top when they privatize it. They're all going to get rich, and it's eventually somebody like a Blue Cross Blue Shield or United will say, hey, you know what? We'll gladly buy you out. The state's not getting any of that money. I mean, of course.
We can't afford $1 billion bill.
Sure, no,
The cost of
I get
healthcare.
So we're just trying.
I mean, it sounds very similar to the whole, the state fund workers' compensation situation, which we paid back. Every single business owner in the state of West Virginia for 15 years had that deficit reduction surcharge on their policy, and most of them didn't even have a clue what it was. We're paying back the state's bad debt. But anyway, I digress.
All right, we beat up the PIA enough.
Promise.
We beat it up again.
It's gonna be a tough one.
I just think that the good news is that if the teachers go on strike, at least I'm sure it will be during the summer months because it's all about the kids.
Yeah, right.
That's it.
Right.
I'll take that as sarcasm.
Fire, well, yeah, the assessment that we get to through homeowners, assess on homeowners policies and given throughout the state, that is really a good thing that happened years ago that I just want to protect that as much as we can. Our volunteer fire departments are struggling to get out. They really do. Volunteerism is really tough. Any kind of suggestions or ideas that you can come up with in that regard. I mean, what we have do a great job, you know, but it's just a small number. I don't know if this, out of curiosity, how many fire departments is in Hampshire County? That's a big county. 7. You know, in another county, that would probably be 12. To be true. If you look at the rest of the state, and I'm not trying to bang on the rest of the state, they have terrible topography to deal with. But, you know, our efficiency over there has killed us in that we get $40,000 or $50,000 per fire department. We have 4 fire departments. You only have 7 in the second biggest county. The rest of the Berkeley and Jefferson only have like 5 or 6. Our efficiency gets less money from the state. I know that when you look at, if you drew a line down there about Morgantown and you went west, if you saw, because I've been doing my own little survey work when I meet with other county commissioners and ask them how many fire departments they have. They're, you know, again, those fire departments probably deserve the amount they get, but if you look at some county that has 12 fire departments, second smallest county in the state, you know, that's $40,000 or $50,000 per fire department, where a county like ours, it's 4.
Basically, whatever the pot of money is at the state level, they divide by how many VFDs there are in the entire state, and they give the same amount to each one. So we have 4, you have 7, we get 4 times the amount, you get 7 times the amount. There's much smaller counties who have between 10 and 20. So they get 10 to 20 times that amount. It's just, all he's saying is there's a lot more money being funneled into way smaller counties because of the way they're doing it. It's not by population, it's by how many volunteer fire departments you have.
Yeah, base it off
and
of
no
geography.
knock to any of them, because they all need money, I get it. But
No, not meant for that. It's just looking at it from a financial perspective and how we've been, you know, the way we operate has always been, you know, in that mode. Like we have 4, just 4. We could use a 5th one.
We should have 6.
Yeah, I mean, reality is 6. But at any rate, that's something that you might want to take a note of and look how that is actually done. Other than that, we want to keep that happening.
Can I interject something
Sure
there?
can.
While we're on fire departments, I don't know if you guys are aware of it, Virginia and Maryland, I believe, both offer retirements for volunteer fire departments. And I'd be glad to send you the link so you guys could look at this low SAP retirement program that's in Maryland. And in addition to that, they provide some additional benefits, and one of them is a $6,500 tax credit with the state. So years ago, we before the whole, what is it?
Property tax.
Yeah, before the reimbursement on your personal property here, we as a county were going to do something comparable. We were just going to give them a direct credit in our assessor's office, and we were just going to pay for it. We were going to use the same qualifications that Maryland does. You have to be in good standing, have to have 3 years of service, have to respond to so many number of calls. We vetted it out. We had the money in the budget, we were gonna do it. We called the state and they're like, hey, the state of West Virginia, I can't tax you any differently than you, so you can't do this. So what I would like, I think something that, and again, this is not a West Virginia problem, this is a national, this is all 50 states, we're struggling to find volunteers, but I think we could do some things differently like Maryland and Virginia do. Maybe look at offering them some sort of retirement program through the state. There's a way those guys are doing it or the states are doing it. Maybe we can look at providing them with an additional income tax credit, whatever the case is. But just exploring some ways that we can incentivize the guys that are already, because most of what we see here in Morgan County, you have a lot of career firefighters that then come home and will hop on the fire truck and run volunteer calls. I mean, there's nothing in it for them to do this except for just to help their community. And we saw it, I mean, after Cool Font burnt down, we saw every single one of our fire departments got there, and they all helped. I don't know how many guys from Morgan County were there, 30, 40?
That's probably 6.
In a matter of within a couple hours, we had 40 people from Morgan County fighting that fire, all volunteers. I just think serving on these emergency services boards, I would like to see the state look at maybe doing something to incentivize the guys that have been doing it for 5 years, and then also to encourage the new volunteer that says, oh, I want to go the career route. Well, that's okay, they can go the career route, but if they also volunteer, there's something in it for them there too.
My review of the code too, we obviously, we take responsibility in our county because we implemented a fire fee and, and collect it and do all that, but I think fire fee that's not within a city limits is actually a state thing, not necessarily a county thing. I mean, I've been proven wrong already today, so it's possible I'm wrong, but I have not located anywhere in the code where it's a county responsibility other than obviously we have to help.
It's not, yeah, so municipalities, so the only 2 fire departments we're required by state code to have in Morgan County are Town of Bath, Berkeley Springs Fire Department, and Paw Paw.
And they're not required to respond outside the city limits.
So there's really 2 things. I mean, I would also implore the state to make it, we have to respond with 911 service. If you call, I'm having a heart attack, it is emergency services. The county has to provide that. We can let your house burn down. We don't have to respond, we don't have to get out. That's another thing whenever we're.
Fire department except the municipalities.
Yep, so I mean, there's just something else to consider. Whenever I said that at the Berkeley County Summit, everybody looked at me like it wasn't a problem, and like I had 4 heads, like they had never even heard of that before. But I mean, that's the truth.
Those incentives are important. Like we did work hard to get those incentives in there for the property tax, and now there's not a property tax. So I don't know how that suits up. I know they did pass an incentive for the volunteer fire departments.
And in Virginia, whatever, you got to select your vehicles. Obviously, everybody selects the highest assessed value vehicle. And you got correct, you didn't pay tax on that personal property.
But in Maryland and all other states, it's an actual income tax deduction.
Are you gentlemen aware in the code that the county commission does have the authority to certify volunteer fire bodies to charge for their services?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we did.
What we run into there is who wants to volunteer for their community and then charge your neighbor to put the fire out.
Yeah, so we just rolled that out last year, and
we don't charge for going, we charge insurances.
Yes, yeah, so we enacted the ordinance to allow us to charge to go, but the way we structured it, if you don't have insurance, the bill will get,
okay, I see what you're saying.
The bill will get exonerated.
But you're right about the emphasis of it.
Kind of passing the buck.
Yeah, and I think our first year, again, slow start because I had to establish all the phone numbers and stuff, since that's what I do for a living is insurance. So I helped do that, and I think we maybe got $10,000, $12,000. I mean, the commercial.
Sean only got 2 of it.
But but what's also unique in state code is if it's a house fire, it's set $500. If it's a commercial fire like that, where you had how many responding fire departments, how much was
$1,500.
$1,500 is the max we can reimburse. So that's it. Now, the only opportunity to have a significant reimbursement from an insurance company is a hazmat type of operation. If you have a fuel tanker that spills, those bills can become $30,000, $40,000 pretty quick. We don't have many of them in Morgan County. Now, the insurance companies, the whole entire purpose of establishing that, if you read ISO, the Insurance Services Office, was to reimburse rural fire departments for their services. I don't think enough counties use it. I don't think there's a standardized process throughout the state maybe. But the insurance companies want to pay it. They want to pay it.
That would be my point. I think we need to educate me and you've had this discussion too before, but we need to educate our firemen that they're not charging their customer. The customer's already paying for that insurance. And that's why they have that insurance, is to pay for these things.
Yeah, we had to have that
We need to make sure that they
conversation.
understand that. Look, you're not hitting your.
Well, our insurance guy took care of that.
Yeah, the problem here, we had somebody post, like a day after we had the discussion, they got the renewal. All my insurance is already going up. No, your insurance is going up just like everybody else's because of fires in California and catastrophes all over the country. Naturally, everybody's insurance is going to be more expensive over the next 5 years. The insurance companies already charge you that. It's part of their rate.
It's more of a public education is where it needs to be from
Yes.
34 years from the fire department. The fire departments understand it. The problem is 60% of the public, as soon as you send them a bill, they're not coming when you fry chicken. They're not coming when you do bingo. You're billing me, I'm not coming, I'm already paying for it. That's the way the public looks at it.
Now, we were able
That's
to get
all.
over that
Educate them
obstacle.
too, then, right? We need to educate them.
Yeah, the public is the bigger piece, I think.
I got you. That makes sense.
I mean, with our EMS, we do have an ambulance fee here, and they bill. And, I mean, for the most part, I believe that obstacle was probably prevalent early on. Now, really, nobody complains, because if you do call 911, you do want an ambulance to show up at your house. So, I mean, they bill too.
I've got a question for the three, maybe four of you. So the home rule, y'all heard about the home rule? That's 1% tax that certain counties are wanting to have.
Sure.
That they're allowed to do. It's not a mandatory, it's just like a FAR levy, I look at it as, or a school bond, whatever. It goes before the public to vote, to whether they want a 1% tax, sales tax, to cover FAR, EMS, whatever they need to. How do you all feel about that as a small rural county?
Well, I don't have any problem with the legislation necessarily. I suppose you could decide whether it should always be, if you do it, obviously the county's prerogative, whether they want to even explore it. But I guess my question only would be, would you put in the state law that you can't just dictate it? You three just can't, or five can't dictate it, you have to put it on a ballot.
That's exactly how it'd be worded. So.
Well, I feel like if a county, then to me, it's no different than a school levy or any other levy. Now, there's people that have levies for fire and EMS and things. They have levies for those things, and they vote for them or they don't vote for them. And so to me, it wouldn't be any different than that. You'd say, hey, here's what we plan to do with the 1%. We're gonna let you all vote on it. I don't know why
60% vote like they do on the levies.
I don't feel like,
As long as it's not that.
as a Republican, I don't feel like that you're doing anything to tax people necessarily. The people then still will vote on it. And I don't think that I just don't feel like the guy that was down there at our meeting in Martinsburg was totally said, I would never, ever, I'm like, well, it's kind of closed-minded to say that, I think. I get that you ran on a platform that you don't want to raise taxes, but you're not raising them. Yes, you're putting a mechanism in place to potentially raise them, but.
Really, he could vote no to that.
Yes, he can vote no.
He can vote no. I mean,
Right, it's up to the majority of the people.
I think that,
Yeah,
anything, if you can convince your public to vote for a tax, I think you've done
The
okay.
sales tax
I mean, you know what I
also
mean?
for our
Like, there's-
community shares it with the visitors. And
Well, that's
what
the
a lot
way
of-
we're.
That's what a lot of the local people complain, you're raising taxes on me for all the tourists to come in. But the sales tax, it's gonna affect me? Yeah, it is. I try to spend money here locally, but it's all gonna affect the people that come here and spend
And I do see the
4 days a
fire,
week that don't pay anything.
public safety being a big issue for us in the future. I mean,
Everybody, not us, the state.
I see it here very prevalent right now. I mean, I listen to Scanner all the time.
So and you all don't have a county fair here, right? So, but they're also wanting to add into that, this is what Randy Smith, President of the Senate, wants to do, is add into that the 1% sales tax on all, any goods. Now, this is county by county again, don't forget. But like Taylor County is having a really hard time. They have no EMS, right? They got the ski resorts and all that. He wants to put it on amusement. So he'll add amusement to that. So if you go into the ski resort or county fair or whatever, you're gonna pay that 1% tax for amusement. To do the same thing, again, you're
Complicating it though, might put a bullet in it for public to vote on it. I don't know.
Well, I think that if
you sell it like it's for visitors.
I just wanna make sure that.
If you sell it that it's visitors paying it because they're coming in to ski or they're coming into this, then you could, people like taxing visitors, I don't know why, but they do. People around here were 100% to go ahead and for us to raise the hotel motel up to 6, because they're like, well, we don't pay it.
Yeah, but
Visitors are gonna pay
Florida's 21%, right, a motel tax.
Is it?
Yeah, so if we're 6%, 7%, 8%.
6 is a state cap. It's a state cap for
But I'm just
that.
saying, if you raise the hotel tax to 12%, we're still nothing compared to other states, but.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I would echo what Commissioner Tuttle said, and I think anytime, and like the fire fee our fire fees haven't been increased since.
It was increased one time since 1988. It was around 2005 to 2007.
Hasn't been increased since then, but it's up to the fire departments to agree on it, and then the people have to vote on it. If the people vote on it, I'm okay with it. That's not up here with the stroke of our pen saying, hey, 1% sales tax. We can certainly foster the idea.
We can do everything we can to convince them, but.
And then it would be up to the people. And if we do a bad job at selling it for the purpose that it's going to be used for, then absolutely it should fail. But I certainly think the state should implore counties to figure out ways to fix problems ourselves.
Give you more authority, right?
Yep.
Give you more freedom.
Well, it's a local, it really puts a little more at the local level, and I think, I hear I don't want to say complaints, I hear the plea for that money, and I believe that I think all the people believe, maybe, that are over there. Okay, these 5 guys currently in Berkeley County, they have this plan, and I believe they're going to do what they say with the money. Everybody always worries about the next group. Oh, you've instituted this plan, what's the next group going to do with the money? You know what I mean? Like, you guys are all going to spend it on fire and EMS, but what's the next 5 going to do? Are they going to spend it on crap we don't support? But so I don't know how you would limit.
That would be spelled out in a ballot, just like a levy. It's like a levy. It has to say it in that.
So it would actually
be used for these things.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the bill, that's what it's going to say.
So it'd be like encumbered funds, basically. It'd be encumbered.
All it's for.
We passed a levy here.
I wouldn't be opposed to anybody supporting a bill that would allow counties to do such a thing. Municipalities already do it. I don't know how it's any different.
They don't even have a ballot.
Yeah, they can just do it. Yeah.
Municipalities don't.
Yeah, municipalities, they don't even have to put it up to vote. They just do it, right?
Right.
And most of them have. Ours just did. Most of them already have to the east. Now, I don't think the majority of them have, but I'm just saying, it'd be a lot more control, meaning the people have a lot more control over it than the municipalities already have.
And I like it better than a ambulance fee, right? Like, we've got an ambulance fee in Hampshire County. I'd rather have that, at least it came to the people. And if it failed, then you don't have an ambulance. Yeah. I think what are you gonna do? Then it's on the people.
You're saying it would replace the ambulance fee?
No.
It
wouldn't replace the ambulance fee.
I guess it could.
No, it can't, from being outside of the building.
If it generated enough money and that was the
Well,
plan.
like Berkeley County alone is like $30 million, 1%.
Berkeley County may.
Right, but I'm just giving it for an
15,
example.
20,000
So
people.
Well, he's saying that you can dial up whatever you want on the ballot, and you could say, hey, we're going to use it for this, and we're going to get rid of that. You could. Now, they might be able to do it because they have less money. They would be able to cover their fee.
Right.
We probably couldn't, obviously, because we wouldn't cover it enough.
understood every county is not the same. That's not what I was getting at. What
Okay.
I'm saying is that Berkeley County wouldn't have to pay a double fee.
I bet you we'd probably be surprised here in Morgan County how much that would actually net.
I think you would. How much is your ambulance fee right here?
1.1.
Between 1.4 and 1.6.
Yeah, 1.4, closer to 1.4.
You might be surprised at how much 1% might bring.
Yeah. Well, I think here in Morgan County in particular, I think we would be really surprised how
There's a
much.
lot of commerce outside of the limits of the town of
Yeah.
Bath.
Every time somebody buys a candy bar.
Yeah, food on it. The other side of the town there.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
And that's one of the best performing
we
food
went
plants in
from
the country, by the
fire
way.
to, but no, that's good. That was, well, since you said, I'd like to bring up, we just had a person in here for Board of Equalization Review, and Social Security income person, that, around here, our values are headed up, no doubt about it. Even on my street, and I live in a place that didn't expect to see a $300,000 house, but it's happening. And those values are going up. We have a lot of folks on fixed incomes. That homestead exemption stayed at $200,000 forever. 20,000. But that amounts to $200. I mean, that's $200.
He's got zeros off, but he's got the 20 right.
Yeah, I got the 20 right. But that is something that.
Well, that gentleman's specific argument was, and he is about that age, and he just said, I get it, unfortunately this is happening, and our county is slow as molasses at getting the values up. I mean, we're so far behind, it's unbelievable. But point is, he said, but for me, he said, I can only get 2.5% more per year in my Social Security income. Now, I know he could go do something, he could go get a job and all that, but what he's saying is, people that are on that fixed income, I can only get 2.5%, but you can raise my value 10% every year, and he has been getting. He just got 11.3. So he's saying, I don't really have the funds to cover that increase in my taxes per se. I know he does, but the point is, he's saying
that's a good point.
It would help if 65-year-olds or somebody some way you could help them, and the only way to do that would be to raise that homestead exemption.
Yeah.
Because we
can't
say, well, we'll keep your house values down because you're old.
You do have one in the code for very low, people that get very low income that are retired, there's an additional homestead, but not that many people gonna meet that requirement. That's really low, that little extra.
So this comes up every year, this topic comes up every year.
Yeah.
There's somebody out there that's always wanting to raise that homestead.
Well, yeah, it's a good topic for running for
But we
election.
can't, you can't get the appetite and leadership to get it done.
Yeah. Well,
Why, I don't know. I don't understand.
Maybe it's just in growth counties. I don't know how you're doing it, but, I guess they all need it though when it comes to homestead. Because we're talking, anyway, I wanted to throw that in because someone, you said, use the word home and something, brought it up, reminded me. Rescue, we've been getting a yearly allotment in the last 2 years.
Just last year was the first year, this is the second year.
And and that's very useful for our rescue service. We struggle to keep people in that business. And even though we do have an ambulance fee, it generates that additional fee and I don't even know what that came from, but we would like to.
Yeah, I think it was a brainchild during COVID. And realistically, for border counties in particular, I think it's extremely important when we're competing with Frederick County, Washington County, Fulton County, the EMS Salary Enhancement Fund. I would really like to see that memorialized permanently because it's either that or we need to increase our ambulance fee yet again to be able to pay for it.
I don't think it did.
I remember we allowed it.
It was about the timing of it but it wasn't, it was from something.
It wasn't. Just took it out of general fund. I can't remember how we did that.
But
There was an administration component with Jody Ratliff and OEMS, I believe.
Yeah, we have to submit a form every year, which we get from Company 7. Misty just probably recently worked on getting it completed, I think, and submitted. And it's also, last year, we got additional money from the governor's office for the fire departments. We'd like that to continue too. We just know that, and you know very well that an ambulance pre-COVID might have been $500,000. An ambulance now is $800,000. Then you got to spend another $400,000 to outfit it with everything that you're required to carry from the state. In addition to that, same thing with an apparatus. Our fire departments now are buying used equipment because they can't afford new equipment, and they haven't had an increase. So anything that you guys can do to memorialize that, I think would be because right now, Company 7, I'll give them credit. I think they are absolutely doing this the right way. They don't want to give raises because it's not permanent money. So they're doing it once a quarter, they're submitting their hours that they worked, and they're getting like a $2 per hour bump in pay. So it's nothing that they can do permanent, because then they're gonna outspend their money.
And then I only have one last thing on the list, guys. This is I think some of us have talked about it, the Airbnb data that we love the legislation. It improved our collections greatly, but there's still no connecting it to where it is for our purposes. It's really hard to audit anything like that, or even get any understanding how that, what money you're getting it from. It comes in one big, I think they just send you a check, so, which is great, but.
I hate to be the one that keeps talking.
No,
But we've been working with Chelsea Ruby on this. I guess it's a very complicated situation on trying to get the Airbnbs to cooperate with, not the Airbnbs themselves, the company.
The company, yeah, the
oh
company.
yeah, they don't want to, sure they don't want to give you the information.
So we've got to.
But there are states that require it. There are states that it's happening, Virginia being one of them. And whatever wording they use would probably be what we ought to be looking at.
Yeah, just see, I guess it seems to all of us, and any county, I mean, I know a lot of the county, Randolph, there's a lot of counties that have them. I mean, surprisingly, obviously, Berkeley really doesn't have very many, but, so it's not probably on top of their list, but we always hear that. Hey, Virginia's got it. I don't know why in the world can't we do it? I mean, if they could do it, we could do it. So we're always like, well, I mean, and again, I assume now at least they're collecting it and we're getting it, because we are getting a nice check from them every month, but we have no earthly idea if we're taxing the properties correctly. Because it's a different class if you're renting it out than it is if you live in it. And there's really no way to know, because you can't get on that website. You could do it. You could get on there and look at pictures and make the assessors people say, hey, do you recognize this house? If you do, where's it at? Can you remember? Where is it? And you could try to find them, but man, that's a lot to add. That's a full-time thing it'd take you a while.
Is that what it's about, though? It's not about the collection and detail?
I have to believe. See,
Well, yes,
hard
the
to know.
detail. We need the detail.
You wouldn't know if someone was renting their place unless they honestly submitted it themselves, or if they are on Airbnb, you have to assume Airbnb is honestly submitting it to us.
Right, but my question, let me ask my question.
Okay. But tax to me is the thing.
It's about getting that information so that you can regulatorily go after them with the assessor, with their business license, with their other things, not about the revenue and knowing where it comes from. You want to use that information to...
I think it's twofold, Daryl, but I think a big component of it is making sure they're taxed in the correct class. Yes, I think that's a big component of it. But we used to be able to at least reconcile, once someone registered their house as an Airbnb, I mean, you kind of knew it was one, and you could at least check to see if they were paying it. Or if it was way down, you would be like, what's going on here? Why aren't you paying your tax? And they would ask, they'd send out notices and things.
Yeah,
so
what happens when that happens? We've been living.
So I don't know even how they regulate it, to be honest with you. I don't know how you even regulate it, because I mean, it's all self-reported, or Airbnb's reporting it, but they're not giving us the specifics. But anybody has to be honest, or you're never going to get that 6% tax. They could collect it from their people and keep it if they don't go through Airbnb. They don't have to turn it in. If you don't know they're renting it, how would you ever know?
Well,
so I don't know. I guess it's just a building.
They're paying the commercial rate now, though, right? If they're not getting the class 3, then they're paying class, or they're not getting.
No way to know.
We wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
We wouldn't know.
Because if they build the house, you don't know if they're living in it or they're renting it. I mean, we don't know.
We don't think there's a lot of that going on.
I don't think there's a lot going on, but
there's data, though, that there shouldn't be a problem with having the data. I mean,
I guess what he's probably getting at, the root of what he's getting at, is why do you care as long as you're getting the check? Like what do you do? How do you reconcile it anyway? Like, what would we do if we had the information? How does it help us, really?
The big thing is it helps you correlate who's actually paying their taxes. There's the way they're doing it now, just sending you a lump sum check. We ran into the problem of, we think we're getting some of the municipalities' money. The municipalities reserve the right to collect the occupancy tax as well. We found ourselves getting some of their money, because you know how the Postal Service does the zip codes. You could be in Romney at my house, and I'm 2, 3, 4 miles. He's 6, 10 miles out of Romney. But when you're on Airbnb in Romney, they're sending a lot of that to the municipality. And really, that's in the greater county area.
I guess that could happen. Okay, that's a good point. I never even thought of that.
Or is it for the compliance of some other
I never even thought of that, to be honest with you, but that makes sense. We're in the same situation. You'd have Berkeley Springs addresses. How the hell would we know if they're getting it or we're getting it? Maybe we're getting theirs, maybe they're getting ours. I have there's no way to know.
But being a global corporation, why would they just, on their own goodwill, pay millions more dollars?
What happens
in
when it
accounting
doesn't
services
show
for
up?
must be forced?
Next year if they don't give it to us, how are we gonna find out what's up? Like all of a sudden the checks stopped coming in. It was great when they came in, but what if they don't? And now we have nothing.
And obviously there was a problem because we went from my first year here, our chunk being 150,000 to what is our chunk now?
450 almost.
Yeah, so obviously there was a problem. We'd just like to be able to reconcile it,
I
I
like
think.
that county commission perspective on the legislature.
That's what I'm telling you.
There you go.
Yeah, I do think it's nice because there's plenty of, well, I guess 80% of them down there probably never had done the county bit. So there are some unique things that you run into that you might not see down there. Now, if you're in contact with your people all the time, you can tell them about it, but if you're sitting there, that's a whole nother thing.
So I'll just be blunt, the big fight will be with Airbnb's big attorneys and lobbies and we're trying to work it out with them without having to pass a law, but.
Well, I think that's a good way to tell them though, what you said.
Yeah.
Well, how do we know if you're right on that line, how do you know if you're giving it to the county or the town? Like that money's going to somebody. We're not saying you're not paying it, but how can we check that you're giving it to the right entity?
Yeah,
How do you know?
That's where we don't want to know that.
And I can tell you, it's not like if you guys have to pass a law, it's not like they're gonna say, hey, guess what, West Virginia? It's too much work. We don't want your money anymore. They're making so much money for providing an opportunity for people. And that's the only thing they have to do is manage the opportunity. Just like whenever you made it, the legislature made it to where they had to remit payment to the counties, they did it fairly quickly because they had no choice. I mean, I think you almost need to put them in that position where they don't have a choice. Just provide us with the data. Give us a damn spreadsheet that tells us that me and my cabin in Hampshire County.
What makes up the check, bro? Like this house rents it every night, and they give you 2,000 of the 25. Like they're a big one in the county, but the rest of them you're nickel and dime. I mean, it's a big spreadsheet, obviously, but
we have hundreds in Morgan County, and I know I'm sure Hampshire does too. Ours is in Hampshire County, and that's the thing. It just goes right to you guys whenever we rent it out.
We also had an instance where an individual was double taxed.
We did too.
Paying it out of goodwill.
Yep.
Yeah.
We had 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, maybe more.
And really, there is, in our ordinance, the sheriff pointed it out, that the burden is on the taxpayer to prove to the sheriff that they paid their taxes. But really, what they're saying is all we have is a spreadsheet that just gives the lump sum. But if you get into that situation, if they print their annual report, you can do the math.
Yeah, we have. We've given back 4 or 5 people's money.
Yeah, but Tucker County, they get $1 million. So they're in a unique situation where it's really worth it for them to figure it out. So they paid one of their county staff for like 2 months to survey the entire county. And I realize every county, our county can't do that. I mean, it'll take us.
And that's where we're at too. I mean, we're running short in the assessor's office as it is.
Yeah.
We can't justify pulling one of the actual appraisers that we really need out there, making sure the values are correct.
And you could afford to pay someone out of the funds you're getting, but the problem is they're the one, they don't know. The people that know are the people that are already in the assessor's office. Like, they're the ones that you'd have to know. They're the ones that you could say, hey, here's the picture on Airbnb, and they're like, I know where that's at. That's up on whatchamacallit lane. No, I mean, there's not that many people that know that.
Yeah.
Is
that your last thing?
I have no other legislative. Now, maybe someone else does.
One sentence in that act, it just says, provided, however, the Airbnb shall, report to the government entity
A list of the properties.
annually, the list of the properties, the address of the properties, and the amount of money collected that year.
I'd ask you to do it monthly, though, when the check comes in rather than annually. My God, please, if you're going to change that word, make it monthly with the check, because they pay you every month. Because if not, you're just going to get so far, you'll be 12 months back, and it'd be tougher.
And I'd imagine their accounting software has the ability to drill down that level to figure out how much money they make.
Obviously it does. How else would they come up with the number?
Well, I'll tell you a little story if you want. The way this bill passed, it said it used to be all hotel motel taxes, Airbnb had to pay it. But it was a responsibility of the property owner to enforce it, collect it, remit it, do all that, and every county did it differently. And for 3 or 4 years, the CVB's collective association of the state said, we want the Airbnbs and VRBOs to do that. And they hired a lobbyist at Airbnbs and VRBOs. And it was a knockdown, drag-out fight every year that they said, it is impossible, we can't do it. We can't do it until we got it going, got the bill rolling, and it got hung up in House Board where the chairman of that committee just loved that lobbyist and shut it down. That bill's dead, not going anytime. So the chairman of that committee was no longer the chairman the next year. And Chelsea Ruby was there, and hey, we want to do this, and we sat down with that lobbyist, and he was adamant, no way, it can't be done. The software doesn't exist. No other state does it. We're not doing it. Until it just so happened, the Airbnb person, like the national person, was in Charleston and came and sat down, because I think Chelsea Ruby invited her, but there was some tourism conference that she was attending. Sat down in a conference room just like that, and I was in that meeting. There's only like 5 of us, and that lady said, now what do you want? We just want you to let you, the third-party administrator, be the one that collects it and remits it. The property owners don't have to do anything. And she said, okay.
I mean, they already collected sales tax.
Right, okay. She said, yeah, okay. So we call it VRBO and say, look, Airbnb's going to do it. And they're like, oh, okay. Just like that, and then bam, the bill flies through, and everyone's revenue goes up like you would believe, because they're all being charged by the third-party administrator, not the property owner, and remitting it all at one time. So don't be surprised if they say our software can't do that. It's just impossible.
Well, I'll go ahead and throw in the thank you to anyone that was there when it happened the first time, when we finally got the checks, an account with each county, because there was one year where they had supposedly it was going to the state. They were collecting it. The Airbnb was collecting it, and it was going to the state, and then the state was going to say, well, we never got any money from the state. So, I mean, I know that it has to be a fact that the state has. So I didn't feel real bad when we got all that money for Shaking State Park, because I figured it had to be a fact that they had hundreds of thousands of dollars of ours.
What they did is the year before they said the VRBOs and Airbnbs, the third-party administrators, you're required to collect the sales tax of 6% and remit it to the state. So for a year, they had that ability and collected 6% and sent it to the state. It was still the responsibility of the property owner, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, to collect the money from their visitors and remit it to Morgan County. But I think there's a lot of allegations by the CVB people that 6% was their 6% and it wasn't. It was our sales tax.
Well, that could be.
So we did it 1 year, maybe even 2 years.
But it was like a light switch. We went from this amount of money to double that amount of money in Airbnb. And Airbnb, we say Airbnb, it's all of them, but they certainly write the
vacation rentals.
Oh yeah,
way bigger check than the rest of them.
Airbnb is the biggest, they're the best. VRBO, I mean, we have one, and VRBO is I get 3 or 4 rentals a year on VRBO, and you can get 40 on Airbnb. I mean, Airbnb is they're the 1,000-pound gorilla, for sure.
It was a fairness thing. Everyone should.
That was a good story. Liked how it turned out.
It was good for us.
Okay, all right, well, anybody else have any
I just wanted to circle back, Commissioner, on the phone you were talking about day report. Do y'all actually does the president delegate a commissioner to serve on the day report, Criminal Justice Board or Community Corrections Board?
I'm on the Criminal Community Corrections Board.
Okay. I'm on that board back home, and we've had a lot of success, but really, just to be blunt, it all came down to people. Prior to me, we didn't have a good director, so we delegated good people, but the biggest thing that we did was we got a circuit judge on our board, and a magistrate judge on our board, prosecutor on our board, a sheriff on our board. Is your board comprised of those ladies and gentlemen?
All those except those judges we have invited many times, but they don't usually come. And they are where are we being recorded?
They're on that.
Well, they're where the problem lies. There's a number of problems, but and we have a new magistrate coming in, so our prosecuting attorney has been in contact with them.
That's what we really.
So it's assigning these people to the alternate sentencing that is what helps. And now the only bad thing we're facing now is home confinement used to almost pay for itself, meaning you have to have at least somebody overseeing those folks. So you gotta pay somebody. And then you also have to pay for those bracelets, the, whatever they call them, the screen bracelet, or whatever, the home confinement bracelets. And that's like $8 a day for those bracelets on average. But now, no one's making anyone that's on home confinement pay anything. Like at the court level, the judge is not requiring you to pay to be on home confinement and stay out of jail. They're saying, well, we don't have a job, or we don't have the money, or blah, blah. All right, well, you're on home confinement, but you don't have to pay for it. Well, we still do. So home confinement now, I no longer have any money in home confinement because we have to basically, and of course what they say is, well, would you rather send them to jail and you pay $50 a month? And I'm like, well, no, but I'd like them to pay something. You're keeping them out of jail. Can't they pay $2 or $3 or $4 or $5 a day for the bracelet?
They used to. I mean, they always were willing and able to do.
But yes,
pay for it, but now.
it all comes down to the judges. Community service, we used to have way more people, we have less now.
Does your
Because nobody wants to do
day
community
report
service.
have a community service component?
Well, that's the
That's
sheriff.
something.
It's not the day report.
It's the
No,
sheriff's
but they-
office that oversees that.
Okay.
But what we did was we implemented strict policy. We have a very, very conservative county and conservative judges. So we implemented strict policy where this is just a second chance organization. You have to be a nonviolent offender. And there's a lot of components that we added to get the judges and to get the community to buy into it. And once they bought in and these judges bought in, we took our jail bill from $60,000 to $70,000 a month to $28,000, $35,000 a month. But we're putting violent people in jail still, what I'm sure y'all's community wants too. But if you're nonviolent, you need to be out here working, back to work, paying for yourself. And those policies really helped us.
Well,
It's all about the people too.
Well, I'll say the magistrates are fairly conservative, but they just aren't, for whatever reason, they don't get it sometimes. But I would say our circuit judges you'd think they'd be conservative, but they don't really cooperate with these programs very much, I can tell you.
We added a DVIP program too, a domestic violence intervention program as well. That's a lot of pretrial diversion where they can be in classes and not having taxpayers pay $60 a day for them in jail.
If you're not working on it as a county, you're one of the counties that are getting crushed on the jail bill.
Yeah, we've been doing really well.
You have to do it. That's why ours went from 600 to 300. It was literally, I think, just this group, and it's a great group. It's got probation people, and it's got Tom Delaney from the DA's office, and then it's got our prosecuting attorney, me, people that are from partnership, all the people from our day report, the sheriff's on it. You know, there's the guy that does home confinement under the sheriff's on it. The only people we really are missing is the judges, but they're the ones we need because they're the ones that need to play ball with us.
Well, we have a director that fights. I mean, when I'm not going to say any names, but down in Charleston, you see how some of those bureaucrats get tied in with the people that they know in Kanawha County. And we have a director that will go down there and fight for money for us as well. The grants have been huge. I mean, and our DHHR referrals. I'll work with you on that.
Well,
anything I can do.
I hear what, I agree with you. We've done well with the grant. It got doubled. The grant's going good. The day report itself's going great. We also had, what was the last thing you said besides fighting?
The DHHR.
Oh, DHHR.
referrals.
Yeah, we were getting quite a bit of pay from DHHR for services they're doing for them. Man, now they're even doing supervised visits. So it's like if you have parents that are co-parenting and they need a supervised visit for the kid. Starting Points was doing that, and for some reason they can't anymore, whatever. So we're actually, Day Report is, I think, doing supervised visits. You can charge for that. So there's a lot of things they do. The actual Day Report, we're not having to put a lot of money in that anymore. It's going real well, and if you don't have one of those, you're behind the 8 ball. But still, but the jail bill's back up this year. I don't know why. They said they think it's going to go down the next 2 months.
What we had was you had, and see if that would help.
Well, one of the things, by the way, the state guys, one of the things that you guys have done, gals, have done is they did change years ago the time frame of when the county started paying. So it used to be, I don't know the words, but it used to be they paid, as soon as they went in there, and now they're not paying until they're convicted or something. I don't know exactly what it is.
That's something else we audited. We got the prosecutor together with the commissioner and the subcommittee and the sheriff and so on and so forth. Whatever.
Check the days.
Pleasures to the commission, which subcommittee you pick. But auditing that process, once they are sentenced or convicted, make sure the state's picking up the jail bill.
Absolutely. Our prosecuting attorney does it.
It's big.
But you as a county commissioner being on there now, if you're in other situations where you're talking to people, you need to tell them the same thing, because I guarantee there's counties that are not doing it very well, and their jail bills are terrible, and it's just probably eating them alive, but.
Yeah, I think Harrison County just, in their first 6 months, saved like $80-some thousand just by auditing that process. Or is the state picking up
Yep.
when they should? When they're
Our guys, yep, we did too. Our Dan James, he used to be over there.
That's right.
He's very good. He checks it every month, and you'll see pluses, well, unfortunately, there's pluses sometimes too, but you'll see pluses and minuses on that bill from things where they've audited it.
And sometimes it's a waiting game. We're waiting for the state,
The crime lab.
the crime lab, and
We're
they're
backed
sitting,
up so
they're sitting
far.
in the regional jail for an extra 8 months, a year sometimes, because we can't get information
We
from the
literally
state.
bought our own cell phone,
Reader.
cracking software so that we can get the cell phones read ourselves. By the way, I don't think Hampshire has it, and we would be happy to let you use ours or piggyback if you need to, but the point is, Dan says, well, if we make a request, it could be 6 months before we get it back. And we can't even get these people's phones because they won't give them to us, because we tell them it could be 2 or 3 months before you get your phone back, and they're like, well, forget it. So unless the court orders it, they're not giving it up voluntarily. So now we can do it in a day because we have the software, we have the people trained to do it right here. It helps, yeah.
Yeah, and then you're kind of knocking on civil rights, you know,
Are we
right to
there?
a fair, speedy trial, right? I mean, if you're sitting in the jail because the state can't do an autopsy, or the state crime lab can't get something done that the counties need, then we actually
Usually
have to
cell
go.
phone reading. It's
Yeah,
backed
we
up
actually
months.
have to go out and pay for it. I mean, to get it done more expeditious.
Does anyone have anything else that they'd like to talk about when it comes to legislation?
Now, I'd like to say thank you guys for coming down here and talking to us. I know that, I mean, while we do attend the Berkeley County one, sometimes I feel like we're maybe a little too little.
Well, I'm not done with them yet.
Oh, okay.
But
okay.
I am done when it comes to legislation, I'm done. But if y'all don't mind hanging around for a few minutes, we're gonna go through the final couple of things on our agenda here real quick. And I'd like to catch up with you about some projects that have been on the books for 18 to 20 years with the state. And we're doing our best to try to get it done. These are actually grant projects that we've received. At least one is that long far. I don't want to make it sound, but I'd like to talk to you all about those afterwards. Of course, we'll be coming down in February, March, and during our other association orders to try to catch up with you guys. I know I have one meeting with one of the projects. I don't know if that's something you might want to hear about it. You can decide, but. At any rate, you want to go ahead and we'll just head through our. Oh, and Tom, same with you. If you get your chance to get over here, I'd like for you to see the trail project that we've been working on for most of my life.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to see it. Been talking to you guys about it. Susan Webster, definitely.
Not much to see, but it's a moment. But you know, it's funded. There's some complications with the new road, but everything's good as far as actually happening. But it's just got to get it to happen.
Except it doesn't.
Except it doesn't. Except it doesn't. At any rate, we have administrative report next on our agenda. Tom, and you're welcome to since you can't join us later, you're certainly welcome. We appreciate you joining us and having you here.
Don't worry, we're gonna be just a couple quick minutes here.
But he's welcome to take off and join us, because I'm gonna take off with him probably.
Okay.
All right, administrative report, thank you.
All right, so we have Sheriff's Tax Office who is hiring a replacement for Melanie Smith's position. That's going to be Brittany Miller. They're asking that she started January 31st, $15 an hour.
I'll make a motion to approve the hire of Brittany Miller at $15 an hour, full-time benefits as of January 31st.
One motion on the floor. Hire Brittany Miller. That's set.
$15 an hour.
Any comments, any questions?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Looks like we got a new person working at the tax office.
All right, and then next we just got quite a few checks in from the local economic development assistance grant. So we got $20,000 to Parks and Rec for a pump track at Byler Street. $10,000 to the Morgan County. Public
We got
Library.
20?
That's what it says.
Sure something down.
Did you see it with your own eyes?
Yes, I have it right here.
Huh, interesting. Okay, go ahead.
$10,000 to the library for books, cards, tables, and chairs. $10,000 to the Morgan County Solid Waste Authority for parking lot paving project. $10,000 to Paw Paw Public Library to repair and replace a walkway and sidewalk, and $140,000 to Cape and Resort Park Foundation to repair game courts and get a Bobcat skid steer. So that's just put on the very.
Most of that,
Basically, all the checks came to us, so.
except
I
for the
think-
Paw Paw one. Yeah, we gotta deliver that one. Paw Paw Library.
Paw Paw and actually Morgan County Solid Waste is just to them also.
Oh,
That's
it
us.
it didn't come,
They're came
they're
to
made
us.
to them?
Two
But-
checks were made to them, yes.
Well, then I think all we really need to do is make a motion to approve our county clerk's office to write the checks to these other 3 entities, because the money is coming into our general account.
But that's what I was concerned about, is you had talked to auditor, and do we have to pay bills, or do we have to get those out of our account? Do we have to pay their bills, or do we get something from them that, we're gonna need some,
That's, Craig Blair would rather have the money, those guys that sent the money want the money to go there. I don't think we better be waiting on their invoices.
all right.
They should give us invoices after they get the projects done, because unfortunately, our auditor's gonna be the one asking for all this
That's
stuff
what I
here.
was concerned
So
about.
we need to make sure we get copies of whatever, the checks before you send them, for instance, and all this. But yes, we should get them, it's just like a hotel motel.
That's what I
thing.
was thinking, I guess I'm
But-
confused with Hotel Motel,
I
yeah.
don't think we better hold it up.
All right, we're not gonna hold it.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve, the county clerk's office to write, 3 checks, $20,000 to Parks and Rec, $10,000 to the Morgan County Public Library, and $140,000 to Cape Resort State Park Foundation, that are flowing through our system from a state EDA grant.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to do that, and all in favor?
Aye.
Anything else?
No, that's all.
All right, thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent
We
agenda.
have a consent agenda? This is not a regular meeting. I know.
I don't know.
I don't think we have a consent agenda, do we?
They probably just let it
Do
carry.
we or do we not?
Well, I don't think, she told me that she had a few things, which is why I kept it on there, but I don't see nothing.
Well, I did sign some things already, but that was from last meeting, I'm pretty sure. But,
Are you pretty sure? You just signed things willy-nilly now?
no, no. Just had a different date on it.
Well, we meet again this week, so if we miss something, we'll do it then.
All right. All right, then we would go in recess, is that correct, for Board of Equalization?
Yeah, because we gotta reconvene Thursday. We doing it Thursday?
Thursday.
All right, thank you all. Been a great fun time.
All right.
I'm probably getting hungry. We should order some pizza.